I have been waiting to pick up Batman 158 from my comic book store, which is the beginning of the new or Batman Hush 2. And I got issue 159, which is the second issue, a physical copy, and I'm waiting on my physical copy of 158 to come in, but I couldn't wait. So I bought a digital copy on Comixology. I don't do it often, but every now and again, if I'm waiting for something for so long, I'll go ahead and buy a digital copy just so I can read it. But physical copy, I'm definitely going to pick up. But this, oh man, Now I'm not gonna say I'm not here to tell you that there's never been a bad Batman story. There's enough bad Batman stories and Batman art out there. Not gonna deal with that. You already know what the shtick is on my channel. But Jim Lee and Jeph Loeb. Okay, like, do I need to say more? Excited about this book, and it's not a default. Like, it's not a given that I'm gonna read something that Jim Lee is working on and it's gonna be good. It just so happens that Jim Lee gets on good stuff. He doesn't have a spotless career, but typically he's on good stuff. And him and Jeph Loeb on Hush too. This is why I love Batman. The ability to craft stories around the mystery of Batman, even with all that we know about Batman. And if you're not familiar with the original Hush, the Batman Hush story, go to Comics Explain. Rob has a very great video, or even Comic Storian. Rest in peace to him. But he has, both of those channels have great, well-detailed breakdowns of the initial Hush story. So I'm definitely not going to go over all of that. I'm not going to give you any spoilers. Maybe I might give some because I might show some panels from the book. I'm not going to do a complete walkthrough. It's a fairly new story that people are really, really excited about, so I don't want to spoil it. Typically, if it's a book that a lot of people are really interested in, typically I like to give it a few months if I'm going to do a full review before I just go, 100% spoiler. So I won't do that, but I will show some panels. So if you don't want to see that, I'll let you know when I'm going to transition just to show a little bit of the artwork because it's Jim Lee. Does this hold to the standards set by that first Hush story? Yes, and yes, it does. They delivered. Jim Lee always delivers on the art, and it's amazing looking through panels drawn by Jim Lee. You almost forget like how complete of an artist he is. The man is not perfect, but look, this is my number one artist. He's number one on my list. He's number one on many people's lists for a reason. Like, I'm not gonna delve into all of that, but Hush is. I was wondering, especially seeing as how the original Hush kind of wrapped up, like, okay, what are they gonna do here? How are they gonna do this? And it starts out with the Joker. I'm not gonna give any more, but they find a way to like really. I'm like, oh, and it's funny because when I started reading, I didn't think I was gonna be as interested. Like, and this is why I give books time. I think sometimes when people go into certain books, like if it doesn't grab them right away with the story, they immediately are like, all right, closing a book, I'm done. I'm different. The art, of course, is Jim Lee, so it grabbed me. So, okay, I'm sticking around. The first couple of pages, I was like, okay, I'm all right. Where are you going? Are you going to rope me in? Boy, yeah, they roped you in. They roped you in. They got you. And Jim Lee, of course, he still has it. A lot of these veteran artists, I understand why they don't work on books consecutively. I get it. If you ever look into how much work goes into, penciling a book, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I have a lot of respect for these guys that spend painstaking hours working on every panel and every detail. And especially when you're reading something that Jim Lee has put the pencil to. You know he has spent some time crafting some panels that are gonna have you sitting there just looking. And I was in a comic book store and we were talking about this, and the topic of Batman Hush came up. And it was like, yo, I just sat there. Somebody said, yo, I just sat there with every page looking at the panel. Like it took me extra long to read the book. I typically take longer than most people to read through comic books because I'm not just reading the words, like I'm actually enjoying the art. I'll read all of the speech bubbles and then I'll sit there and just look at the art for a little bit, appreciate it. The artist took the time to sit down and draw this. I'm going to sit down and appreciate it along with, look, I like to read and try to understand and comprehend the stories of these books for the same reason. The writer took their time to write this story, took time out of their life, out of their day. Obviously, it's something they enjoy. They enjoy doing it, but I'm going to actually soak up the story. Like when you go eat when you go somewhere and it's fine dining, well, maybe you do scarf it down, but most people, if it's fine dining, they're going to take a little more time. They're going to like, you know what? I spent $250 on this plate, just my single plate. Yeah, I'm going to actually take my time and enjoy this a little more. I kind of view comic books not in that same way, but I view comic books in a way that if it's the artist and the writer took their time, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to sit down and actually enjoy this. So I don't rush through the books. And man, oh, I want to spoil this so bad, but I'm not going to. But anyway, let's do this. I'm about to jump in to the book. I'm not going to read through it, but I'm going to show a few panels. So I'm warning you in advance, if you've not read Batman 158, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to show some panels from the said book. Of course, this is the cover drawn by none other than Jim Lee himself, the master, and Scott Williams. I think I brought this up on my video where I talked about Jim Lee and his art, how him and Scott Williams like go hand in hand. Scott Williams knows how to ink a Jim Lee drawing. And there's a lot of inkers that really don't do a good job sometimes. They go a little heavy-handed. Scott Williams, man, he does this flawlessly, in my opinion. So let's see if I can. I just want to show some of the panels. So let me see. Working with this Comixology app, just to show you that, man, Jim Lee, he still got it. Oh, this was one where Talia Al Ghul shows up. And just the way, like it, I never understood, like, how is it that some artists will draw a panel and you're drawn to certain things? Now, this is probably going to be way out on the deep end geekery when it comes to looking at art. The symmetry of Talia Al Ghul's face, like the way Jim Lee drew, like you see the neckline behind the hair, the way her head is tilted. Yo, that's the kind of stuff I pay attention to that people don't really care for too much. Batman's face, he's been beat up. I'm not gonna, share everything going on, but yo, it's just the way this is done is so dope. I love Jim Lee's art. I love his art. Joker right there. Let me show. There's a panel. There's one panel in here that I really liked. Oh, here's the one. Here's the one. And this goes back to something I brought up before. Just Jim Lee and his ability to draw action in a certain way. It's almost like you are involved in the picture. And the level of detail is just enough. I cannot imagine how long it took him to draw this picture right here. And in some of the shards of glass, you see reflections of Batman's face. Yo, that like, I imagine there are artists that would have drawn this right here that would not have gone the extra mile to say, okay, let me draw a reflection of Batman in some of the shards of glass. They would have just drawn the shards of glass. Yo, Jim Lee is not a regular dude. He is not a normal artist. This dude goes above and beyond, and this is why I have always appreciated his art. This book is so well done. I'm so pleased that the story was actually good. I was worried. Look, just because Jim Lee's a great and Jeph Loeb is a great doesn't mean they can't bomb. I mean, it could have been a complete nightmare. I'm thankful that it's not. It's a good story, man. This is you realize when you read books like this why, if an artist and a writer are competent, why you can knock this out of the park. Out of the park. Like when you look at Snyder's Court of Owls with Capullo on the art, out of the park. Both of those guys. The work they put into that book is incredible. And this is sizing up to be more the same. Jim Lee doing Jim Lee things, providing us with a magnificent work of art. Jeph Loeb giving us a story worthy of Jim Lee's art. What can I say? This is a magnificent book, definitely worth the purchase.